Why are there no crocodiles in Europe? The simple answer is that there used to be. But how did they get there, and why don't we find them living across Europe today? Let's first look back at the crocodile's evolutionary history to find out where it came from and, perhaps, where it is going. Some scientists believe that with climate change we may soon find crocodiles in European seas and waterways once more. If we trace back the ancestry of crocodiles, we can find a common ancestor that lived more than 200 million years ago. This was during the late Triassic and early Jurassic periods. Today's crocodiles and alligators are the only living members of a group of reptiles called the pseudosuchians. These were a broad and varied group that first arrived on the scene 235 million years ago, around the same time as the first dinosaurs. They varied dramatically in their size and their habitat niches they occupied. One, called Deinosuchus, lurked in swamps and grew up to 40 feet long. Others were purely marine predators hunting alongside the likes of Ichthyosaurus and Plesiosaurus. The earliest forms were believed to be more active than today's crocodiles, and many lived purely on land. The variety of species differed in their dietary requirements too. Whilst some were entirely carnivorous, others were omnivores, and others herbivores. But over the years, the carnivorous crocodilians dominated and became more aquatic. The herbivorous and land-dwelling crocodilians died out. There are 18 species of crocodile alive today, with the saltwater crocodile being the largest. These can grow up to 20 feet or 6 meters long and weigh over a ton. They are considered the largest reptile on the planet. So where do today's crocodiles live? True crocodiles, which doesn't include their relations such as alligators, caiman, and gharials, live throughout the tropics in Africa, Asia, the Americas, and Australia. No crocodiles are found in Europe. The climate there isn't suitable for them. But that wasn't always the case. Paleontologists have found extensive evidence for European crocodiles. Teeth, skulls, and even the osteodermal armor under their skin have been dug up across various sites throughout Europe. Most commonly found are the teeth, with an individual crocodile known to shed its teeth regularly throughout its lifetime. They can go through more than 2,000. Luckily, this leaves a significant amount of evidence for scientists who are studying their evolutionary history. It has been known for some time that several different genera of crocodilians lived throughout Europe millions of years ago. However, before now, fossil evidence had never pointed toward the European existence of true crocodiles, from the genus Crocodilus, which originated in Africa. Some fossilized teeth found in Europe belonging to this genus were found to belong to the species Crocodilus czechii, which was native to Kenya and Libya. But how did they get to Europe? And where did they disappear to? New fossilized findings have uncovered the truth about crocodiles and their life in Europe. It suggests a dispersal event that occurred around 6 million years ago during the late Miocene. From this evidence, they certainly inhabited the southern areas of Mediterranean Europe, as concluded by their fossils being found in Spain and Italy. It is thought that the European crocodiles may have crossed the Mediterranean Sea from Africa. At the time, they likely lived throughout North Africa, just the other side of the Mediterranean. This was before North Africa became so arid, and before the formation of the Sahara Desert. Swimming across the open sea was no great challenge for the crocodiles. Evidence suggests that they may have swum across the Atlantic to colonize the Americas. Even freshwater crocodiles can cope with salt water. They possess lingual salt glands that excrete salt from their bodies. Modern crocodiles can swim up to 32 kilometers per hour in the water and have been recorded swimming between islands or even between continents, from Oceania to Southeast Asia. Making these journeys is what enabled crocodiles to inhabit so many parts of the world. They often swim up to 50 kilometers at a time in search of food. They time their journeys to coincide with favorable tides, making their swim easier and faster. Climate research has found that Europe was likely warmer, wetter, and more humid than it is today during the late Miocene. The ocean temperatures were warmer, making Europe habitable for crocodiles. So what happened to the crocodiles that once lived there? The crocodiles that lived throughout Europe 6 million years ago were driven from the north by a change in climate. At the end of the Miocene, the drop in temperatures was the beginning of the formation of the Greenland ice sheet in the northern hemisphere. Up until then, the Earth was unipolar, with ice only in Antarctica, at levels similar to today. However, the cooling temperatures began to affect the flora and fauna. As the Earth cooled, crocodiles moved further south to warmer climates. Millions of years ago, crocodilians were found in a vast array of habitats, from the swamps and shallows to the deep oceans and northern latitudes. Now they reside in the tropics and consist of just 18 species. Because ancient crocodiles looked similar to today's crocodiles, it's easy to assume that they have remained unchanged for millions of years. However, they have evolved through time, even if this has been at a slow rate. As they move from land-based forms to those that become semi-aquatic, they developed the gular valve. This flap of skin enabled them to seal off their throat whilst breathing through the nostrils, allowing them to lie in wait for their prey just below the water's surface. It also allowed them to attack their prey in the water without the risk of drowning. This led to their current lifestyle as semi-aquatic apex predators. These top predators have developed one of the strongest bites in the animal kingdom, enabling them to clamp down on their prey with crippling force. They feed on fish, birds, and mammals. They are opportunistic, ambush hunters, and prey that is taken from dry land is dragged into the water. The crocodile will then perform its characteristic death roll, during which it intends to disorientate and drown its victim and tear meat from the bone. The crocodilian lineage is thought to have evolved most rapidly during the past 60 million years. This is likely due to the fluctuating climate they were subjected to. In fact, scientists believe that crocodiles are rapidly evolving to suit their climate. Subtle changes to their skull structure over time are a testament to that fact and show how they adapted to variations in their environment. This could mean that we will see changes in today's crocodiles as they adapt to global warming. In the wild, crocodiles alter their behavior to take advantage of varying temperatures both in and out of the water. During winter months in Australia, air temperature can range between 16 and 33 degrees Celsius, and the water temperature between 20 and 31 degrees. During the winter, the crocodiles come out of water during the morning and spend most of the day basking in the sun, elevating their body temperature so that they are most active when they return to the water to hunt later. They spend the nighttime in the water to conserve heat. During the summer, air temperatures vary between 21 and 45 degrees Celsius, and the water between 24 and 36. In these hotter times of the year, the crocodiles spend the heat of the day in the water and come out during the relative cool of the evening. They like to maintain a body temperature around 30 degrees Celsius. Although the Mediterranean Sea is warm throughout the year, it is more salty than other bodies of salt water. There is little mixing with the Atlantic Ocean, with less freshwater runoff than other coastal areas, and it has a high evaporation rate during the summer. It may be deemed too salty for crocodiles to survive in. Coastal areas around Western Europe would be less saline, but are typically much cooler than the Mediterranean. They hover around 20 degrees Celsius but can freeze over in the north. Even the large bodies of freshwater found throughout Europe would be considered too cold for crocodiles to survive in. There would be plenty of fish to provide food for crocodiles, but the temperatures would likely be too adverse. These conditions are why there are no crocodiles found in Europe today. But global warming could change this. As the climate heats up, crocodiles could expand their range. They are ectothermic animals. They rely on outside heat sources, such as the sun, to maintain their metabolism. This is why they cannot survive in Europe today. The winters are too cold, and the summers are not hot enough. But things could change, and whilst we focus on the species that will be lost to the changing climate, such as polar bears clinging onto the shrinking sea ice, other species like the crocodiles could begin to thrive. The only thing that would be standing in their way would be humans, who may destroy their habitat before they've even had a chance to move into it.
Despite the resilience of the Crocodilus genus, they aren't found everywhere on Earth where you might expect to find them. One of those places is the Amazon River, Its habitat seems like the perfect place for many of the 18 species of crocodile, but none of them permanently lives there. Here we ask the question, why are there no crocodiles in the Amazon? The crocodiles were thought to have originated in Africa, where species dispersed into the Americas and Asia. However, there have been arguments more recently of an Australian origin. With such a range of crocodile species living in the world today, they have adapted to a range of environments, many of which appear superficially similar to the Amazon. The smallest extant crocodile species is the Osborn's dwarf crocodile, which grows around 1 meter or 3 feet long, while the largest is the saltwater crocodile, which can grow up to 6 meters or 20 feet. However, except for the enormous and critically endangered Orinoco crocodile, which occasionally ventures into Amazonia, the Amazon River itself is only home to 6 different species of caiman. These are more closely related to alligators than crocodiles, but just like crocodiles, come in a variety of shapes and sizes, the largest of which competes with the notorious saltwater crocodile for size. This is the black caiman that can reach lengths of up to 6 meters or 20 feet and weigh over 450 kilograms or 1,000 pounds. It is a huge reptile that has been known to take humans from the river. So, is there room for another enormous predator in the Amazonian waterways? It has been suggested by some that with the niche already filled by several species of caiman, crocodiles would be outcompeted in the Amazon. One of the largest crocodiles in the world, and the nearest to the Amazon, is the American crocodile. If any crocodile species is going to make it further into South America, specifically the Amazon, then the American crocodile is the most likely contender. Other crocodiles simply live too far away. Those who migrated out of Africa were able to swim across the Atlantic and make it to the Americas millions of years ago. But that was when the ocean was much smaller than it is today, and Africa and the Americas were closer together. But the American crocodile has certainly ventured out of North America. In fact, it has made it as far south as Peru, Ecuador, Colombia, and Venezuela, but it doesn't inhabit the Amazon. But if caiman live successfully in the Amazon, why don't crocodiles? The answer certainly doesn't seem to have anything to do with food availability. The American crocodile feeds on a huge range of prey from invertebrates, birds, mammals, reptiles, and fish. They have been known to take domestic cattle, and in the Amazon, they certainly wouldn't have trouble finding any food. Small and medium prey for the Amazon-dwelling black caiman include various fish species, some monkeys, birds, and capybaras. But they also take large animals such as cattle, tapirs, peccaries, river dolphins, and even jaguars. These are all animals that the American crocodile could also potentially prey upon if it lived in the Amazon. But the crocodiles haven't been able to migrate to and stay in the Amazon, unlike their caiman counterparts. Fossil evidence suggests that caiman originally came from North America. They lived there during the Cretaceous period 66 million years ago. They migrated southwards into South America as the non-avian dinosaurs became extinct. At the time, the link between North and South America was a series of unconnected islands. They had to overcome many geographical obstacles to make it southwards, but somehow, they survived the perilous journey. Since that migration, the climate has changed, and there have been fewer marshy areas between the two continents, which has restricted their movements and prevented the caiman from migrating back into North America. Although some species can live in saltwater, they prefer to live amongst freshwater habitats, so crossing open oceans would be challenging for them. But what's stopping the American crocodiles from migrating down into the Amazon? Crocodiles generally are not tolerant of saltwater, at least not for any great length of time. However, the saltwater crocodile and the American crocodile are exceptions to this. They thrive in saltwater and brackish waters. The American crocodiles live in coastal areas, mangrove swamps, lagoons, and small islands. This means that it is possible for the American crocodile to cross the open water between the southern U.S. states and make it to Brazil's coast and the Amazon. Saltwater crocodiles are known to migrate huge distances in the open seas, They can travel hundreds of miles by surfing the ocean's currents. This suggests there is potential for the American crocodile to do the same. Furthermore, those that already inhabit Peru, Ecuador, Colombia, and Venezuela need only to venture further inland to make it into the Amazon. There is also the question of competition that can be disputed. The idea that the crocodiles would be outcompeted by Caiman, although a potentially valid point, isn't true in other parts of the world. There are places where both Caiman and crocodiles coexist. Along the Caribbean coast, for example, both American crocodiles and Caiman live side by side. Neither species has outcompeted the other in the region. Additionally, despite the black caiman being a formidable presence in the Amazon, American crocodiles live side by side with alligators in parts of the US, like Florida. So there must be something else going on that is preventing the American crocodile from inhabiting the Amazon, something other than the competition with the caiman. Just because there aren't any crocodiles living in the Amazon today doesn't mean that there didn't used to be. Scientists have recently discovered that 13 million years ago, the Amazon was swarming with crocodiles, with an unprecedented diversity of them all in the same region. It was a very different place back then before the formation of the Amazon River. It was an ancient mega-wetland ecosystem with a vast array of food on offer for the crocodiles that lived there. Within this wetland, 7 different species of crocodilian lived side by side, the greatest number of differing species ever known to coexist. One specialist feeder at the time had a shovel-like mouth and scooped up freshwater clams and other mollusks from the muddy wetland bottom. All of the crocodilian species at the time had adapted to feed on the wetland animals, but when the ecosystem naturally changed and transformed into the rainforest and river we know today, those specialist crocodilians died out. But the caiman that subsequently ventured from North America into the south and began thriving in the Amazon have adapted to the habitat there. And it's this which seems to be the answer to the question. The caiman is simply better adapted to the Amazonian environment. It's more likely to be the Amazonian habitat that is preventing American crocodiles from establishing themselves there. Although the American crocodiles are found in freshwater ecosystems, they prefer salinity, and that is where they thrive. The freshwater of the Amazon may not be a draw for these enormous reptiles. Their preferred habitat offers American crocodiles a mixture of heat, humidity, and salinity, a combination not found in the Amazon or further south into the South American continent. The caiman is so well adapted to the freshwater environments of the Amazon River basin that it may have developed immunity to some of the crocodilian diseases that would otherwise wipe out any crocodiles trying to live there. The same can be said for the North American white-tailed deer. These deer carry diseases that kill moose and elk. Therefore, moose and elk are pretty much extinct where white-tailed deer thrive. Could it be that disease susceptibility has prevented crocodiles from surviving in the Amazon? Perhaps the few that made it there never survived long enough to breed and establish a population. In the modern world, migrations by entire species are likely to be thwarted by human activity. More obstacles than ever stand in the way of animals and their natural desire to disperse far and wide. It is in the interest of a species to spread itself geographically as far as possible to give it the best chance of surviving climatic changes, disease, predation, and prey fluctuations. But with man-made obstacles such as cities, highways, and shipping lanes, wildlife corridors are now few and far between. For the American crocodile to travel southeast from Venezuela to the Brazilian Amazon, or even make it via Ecuador, where they inhabit the coastlines, they would need to overcome these obstacles. You would be forgiven for thinking that because the closely related caiman thrives in the Amazon, crocodiles would too. But each species has adapted and evolved to survive in its environment. And geographical barriers, whether natural or man-made, also make migrations challenging. Canada, the second largest country in the world, is home to a vast array of wildlife, from black, brown, and polar bears to wolves, reindeer, walruses, and orcas. No one can deny that Canada has a lush biodiversity covering the country, but there are plenty of species that are not found there. Here, we ask the question, why are there no crocodiles in Canada? Although alligators and American crocodiles live further south on the North American continent, they do not venture northwards to Canada. The climate there is largely a continental climate, with severe winters in the north. Rivers and seas are frozen over, and parts of the Canadian Arctic do not see sunlight for months at a time. These conditions are not suitable for crocodiles. Instead, the distribution of crocodiles across the world is nestled within the tropical regions of Africa, Asia, Australia, and the Americas. They are cold-blooded animals and therefore cannot create their body heat. Instead, they rely on the external temperature for warmth, something that Canada can't offer. But this wasn't always the case. Once, Canada was a completely different place. Rewind 100 million years, and Canada met the criteria for ideal crocodile climate and habitat. Global temperatures were several degrees centigrade warmer than today, and dinosaurs ruled the world. The period in time was called the Cretaceous, an era that lasted from about 145 to 66 million years ago, defined by high sea levels, minimal ice coverage, and the end of the dinosaurs. During this time, Canada and North America were hardly recognizable. The North American continent wasn't connected to the south, and volcanoes were creating new land to the west, whilst mountain ranges were emerging to the east. During much of the Cretaceous, Canada's open prairies that we are familiar with today were deep underwater. The entire North American continent was split in half by the Western Interior Seaway, with Laramidia to the west and Appalachia to the east. The Rocky Mountains were beginning to emerge, creating lush coastlines. In Canada's lowlands, tropical forests existed interspersed with rivers and creeks, marshes, and wetlands, very different from today. Canada during the Cretaceous provided an ideal habitat and climate for crocodiles. Paleontologists have discovered evidence of crocodiles in Canada. Some of this evidence has been found north of Tumbler Ridge in northeastern British Columbia. Today, Tumbler Ridge sits in the foothills of the Rockies and near the confluence of the Murray River and Flatbed Creek. Large coal deposits in the area indicate the site was a swampy forest during the Cretaceous. It has become a hotspot for fossil hunting, with fossils from Ankylosaurus, Hadrosaurus, theropods, ichthyosaurs, Cretaceous flora, and now prehistoric crocodiles. So, crocodiles did once call Canada their home, but these were no ordinary crocodiles. These were giant crocodiles. Remarkably, these fearsome crocodilians left their mark, literally. After raking the muddy river bottom with their giant claws, the indentations later filled with silt, which became sandstone over millions of years. The unique trackway was so well preserved that even the indentations of the scales on the giant reptile's feet were preserved. Not only that, but the scrapings were found alongside juvenile Ankylosaurus footprints, which suggested that the open plain fluctuated between aquatic and shoreline environments. But what animal did these markings belong to? Whatever it was big. By measuring the distance between the claw marks and the prehistoric riverbed, scientists estimated that this creature could have been up to 12 meters, or 40 feet long, double the length of today's largest crocodiles. It was an incredible find, and it is believed that these were thought to be ancestors, or precursors of the extinct North American crocodilian, Deinosuchus, and they probably lived 13 million years before Deinosuchus made an appearance. Whilst today's crocodiles feast on a range of fish, small to medium-sized mammals, and sometimes large mammals such as buffalo, the ancient giants would have had different species on their dinner plates. Scientists believe that these beasts, hidden in the murky waters, were apex predators of the time. They would have likely launched themselves out of the water and dragged unsuspecting dinosaurs below the surface when they came to the lakes to drink. So far, scientists have not given a name to this enormous Canadian crocodile. But these giant crocodiles weren't the only ones to bask in Canada's tropical and humid climate during the Cretaceous. Fossils of a crocodilian, known as Terminoneris, have been found in Saskatchewan, Western Canada. These grew to 6 meters or 20 feet, similar to the largest crocodiles we have today, although these didn't exhibit any form of gigantism like the Deinosuchus-like reptiles. They would still have been a formidable sight, with their heads alone measuring 1 meter long. But rather than snatching large prey from the land, these crocodiles mostly fed off fish. They loosely resembled the modern gharial or fish-eating crocodile that inhabits rivers in India. Pakistan, and Myanmar. But unlike the gharial, scientists think that Determinoneris probably also turned to the small mammals of the time, as well as small dinosaurs when the opportunity arose. The best preserved and most complete fossil ever discovered of a Determinoneris has been named Big Bert. Its replica travels around the country to showcase Canada's prehistoric fauna. The crocodile had a long, slender snout, with many small, sharp teeth ideal for catching fish. Determinoneris inhabited the western interior seaway, the inland sea that split the North American continent in half from north to south during the Cretaceous. Other horrifying predators also lived there, including the long and short-necked plesiosaurs, with a 4-foot-long jaw, housing hundreds of shark-like teeth. These marine reptiles used their streamlined bodies to torpedo through the water to ambush unsuspecting prey. The crocodiles, however, would most likely have stayed in the shallows, closer to the shore where they could bask in the hot sun and grab fish and unsuspecting land animals. Another extinct crocodile once native to Canada included Gil Christosuchus. There has been no reconstruction of the animal's body, but its head was thought to only be 15 centimeters or 6 inches long. Its fossils were found in the upper Milk River Formation of Alberta, and the skull suggests that this particular crocodilian was relatively small. So, not all prehistoric crocodiles were giants, but the Gil Christosuchus was able to survive in the warm climate of Western Canada. The evolutionary history of crocodiles and alligators is fascinating and complex. Today, there are 28 living species of crocodilians across the world. It is thought that this modern group of crocodilians originated in Europe around 145 million years ago. Crocodilians and alligators split from each other in North America, but the ability for the crocodiles to tolerate salt water meant that they could disperse far and wide whilst alligators remained within the Americas. But what happened to Canada's precursors of modern crocodiles? The giants that once dominated the waterways and interior seaway? Scientists aren't too sure. It seems that some species, like the Deinosuchus, which was found further south in North America, became extinct before the mass extinction event that wiped out the terrestrial dinosaurs. So instead of being obliterated by the meteor impact and subsequent destruction that it caused, Canada's crocodilians must have met their demise another way. They could have been outcompeted by the success of some of the larger dinosaurs or other aquatic animals. They would have competed with plesiosaurs and sharks in the western interior seaway for prey such as fish, sea turtles, and others. Climate change could have played a role in their extinction. Changes to the environment could have been responsible. Scientists know that the river the new giant crocodile's claw marks were found in dried up at one time. This would have left nowhere for the aquatic reptiles to go. Whatever happened to the crocodiles of Canada, they played their part in the evolutionary tree, and as more evidence comes to light, more information about these incredible animals will be unveiled. That's all for today. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to like, subscribe, and share it with your friends. You can also leave a comment with what you would like to see in the following videos. Thanks for watching. See you next time.